Good morning, everyone. Let's continue our discussion on SQL. So today we'll start with DML statement. Okay. Now DML stands for data manipulating language. Right. So what do you mean by manipulating language? What can be an example of DML? Can I say insert operation is a DML statement? Yes or no? Can I say update statement is a DML? Can I say a delete statement is a DML? Right? So all these are called as DML, right? Data manipulating statement, because it manipulates the database, right? So if you are doing insert, if you're doing update, if you're doing delete on anything, then we basically call it a DML. Can I say select star as DML? Can I call select star as DML? Yes, no? Right, you should not, right? So you should not call a select star as DML, because it is not going to manipulate the language. It's not going to manipulate the data, right? So DML stands for data manipulating language. And if you say what are the examples of DML, insert, update, delete, right? So can I, if I've written a join query, can I call a join query a DML? Can I call a join query a DML? Yes or no? Select star from this table, select star from that table, join on some condition. No, right? Because remember, whenever you do a join, you are actually doing a select, right? You write select this from here, select this from here, join on this particular column. So we cannot call that also as a DML, right? So that's a different story. Okay, now let's move on. I'll share my screen and we'll go through our notes. Okay, so we are here DML statement. Okay, so let us create a database and use that before we move to DML statements. Now either you use a dbeaver or you use a terminal. It's purely your choice. Okay, so what I can do is, so if you have installed SQL on your machine, so I would say open your terminal, right? Open your terminal and just say mysql-u root, okay, and password is nothing because that's how we have installed MySQL, so it will give you access to MySQL terminal, right? Done. Now what you can do is, if you want to create a database, so you can say create database, if not exist the database name. Okay, so this will create the database if it does not exist. Right? Now this is optional. This is optional. If not exist is optional. You can simply say create database name, okay? But it fails if the database already exists, right? So this particular command would create the database if the database does not exist. If the database exists, then it does not fail, it does not create any database. So let's do this, and it says one row affected, one warning. Okay, let me try to do it again. Okay, it says one warning. Okay, let me try to do something like this. OLC2, it says okay, one row affected, but there is no warning. It's very clear that when you get one warning, probably that means the database already exists. Okay, if you don't write this if does not exist, then it will throw you an error. Can't create database because it already exists. Okay, so that's the difference between these two commands, right? So I would like to say create database if not exist, so that I don't get into any error. Okay, so we created a database called OLC training. Now if you have created this OLC training, then let us try to use it, right? So you can also do something like this. So databases. Now if you see, you can get to see all the databases that you have here. right? Now which database you wish to work with, okay? So just start, just use the command use database name to start working with that database, right? So you'll say, okay, let me say use OLC underscore training. Okay, so it says the database changed. That means now my current database is OLC training, right? So again, also say show tables. So you see, I've created some table like employee, employee 2, employee 3, employee 4, employee 5, right? So you can also use this. I'll also add this command here. So tables to see what are the tables that are available, right? So that's how you can actually work on in this console, right? So if you don't want to use that, I would say launch your dviewer. Okay, and I would always recommend you to use dviewer instead of command. The reason being is this command, like see, it's always recommended that you use the commands, but I would say don't use the console. Instead of that, you use dviewer, and better write that command in the dviewer itself, because the whole industry works on dviewer. Most of the cases, like I would say, in all the projects that I've ever worked, that includes interacting with the databases, we have always used dviewer. So I would like you to keep that a habit. Okay, so this is my production table and this is my localhost table, right? So what I can do is go to my database and see all the databases are here. OLC training is also here, right? So I can just say delete. Yes. And if you want to delete more table, you can just say delete, right? You can also view the script. If you want to know what is the script you would have executed otherwise, right? So you can just see drop schema OLC training 2. That will help you to drop the table. So I would also like to keep it here so that it is helpful for you. Okay, OLC training to drop any table. Sorry, to drop any database. So I would say execute. Done. Okay, now once you're done with this, let me go back and let me create the database again. Okay, so I'll say create database if not exist OLC training. I know that I have already removed that. Done. Okay, so one row affected, no warning. Done. Now I can say use OLC training. Done. Use OLC training. So database changed. Now right now I'm in OLC training. Now if I say show tables, I should see nothing, because I have removed all the tables. I have removed everything from my UI, right? And hence you are not able to see any table around this. Okay, now let us try to learn the insert command first. Okay, insert is basically used to insert the data into a table, right? So it is used to insert data into a table. There are two methods to insert data into a table. Let's learn that. Okay, so one is very popular, that is insert into values. That is what you can do, right? So to insert the data into a table, first you need to do what? You need to create a table. So what is the command? The command is create table, table name. Okay, and this is again optional, if not exist optional. So you can use this if not exist if you want to make sure that the table should be created if the table does not exist, and if the table exists then the table should not be created, right? It should not even give you an error, right? So for that you can use if not exist command. Okay, so let us try to create a table. Now where do you want to create the, how do you want to create the table? You can either write your query here, okay, or else go back to this and just refresh your connectivity. You see you have got OLC training. Okay, right click and say SQL editor and get a new SQL script. Done. When you get this SQL script, check it out. You are under OLC training, right? You're under OLC training. Okay, so now say paste and you can execute this command here. Just run. Done. Okay, so this is basically your DDL command, right? Data definition language. You have defined a table called employee. So once you're done with this, just go here and expand. Okay, and if you don't get to see this, just right click on the table and say refresh, and you should get the table created here, right? So table is created, right? And if you see, there are some columns, you can add some constants which we will learn later, and there is a data tab here, ID, name, salary, ID, name, salary, and all. Now, if you wish to insert the data from here, you can all click on this plus button, but we'll learn that later. Okay, let's go back and we'll fire the insert command. Okay, now let me say insert into employee values 101 Suraj 5000. This is what you can try. Okay, now where do you need to execute that? Here in the script file. Okay, let me do what? Let me execute one command from here. Okay, I would like to execute one command from here, but before that, let me say show tables, because I know that I created a table. I got a table called employee. Now let me say paste insert into employee values 101 Suraj 5000. Done. This will insert a record. So let's go back to this table. You don't see this, just click on refresh button here. Right, so you can see that one record is inserted in the table 101 Suraj 5000. Okay, now let's insert one more record. Okay, and we'll say insert into employee values 102 Suman 6000. So let me go to the script file here, and this time I would like to execute it from here. Done. Insert into employee values 102 Suman 6000. Done. So this is done, and let us go back here. Let us go back here and just refresh. Your second record is also inserted, right? So that's how you can insert the record into your table, right? So if you see, the syntax is very simple. Insert into are keywords. Okay, so this is keyword. Insert is a keyword. Into is a keyword. Okay, employee is the table name. Values is a keyword, right? And these are your data. First column, second column, third column, and so on. Okay, so once you are done with this, then you can say select star from employee. Right? So where do you want to execute that? Clearly here. Select star from employee, and just let me say execute. And if you see, I got 101, 102, Suraj, Suman, 5000, 6000, right? So this commands can also be executed here, right? And you get the output like this 101, 102, and so on. Two records are inserted, which we are fetching it from here. Okay, now let us learn this. While you write an insert command, you can also skip the columns, right? And for example, let's say you have 50 columns in a table, right? And you wish to insert only 10 details. 10 you want to insert only the values for 10 columns. Rest all you don't really care about, right? So what you can do is you can say insert into employee, and you can specify for what columns you are interested to insert the value, and then you can say values and provide the value that you wish to insert, right? So let's copy this too. Let's copy this too. Now look into this. Insert into employee. Now I'm saying I want to be little choosy. I want to choose which column should get the values, ID and salary only. Okay, and what are the values? 103 and 7000. And remember, we have not given the value of name. See here, the name value is missing, but that should not be a problem. Let's run this command. Done. Now let's go to this employee table again, and if you don't see this, just click on refresh, and you got another record here. You got another record here, 103, null 7000, right? So you got here null, right? Which means if you see in this case, you have inserted only two columns and you have not inserted the value for name, right? And this by default would insert null. Okay, now let's move on. You can also do something like this. insert into multiple row at the same time. Suppose you want to say, I want to write a single insert query, and with the same query, I should be able to insert multiple records. Okay, that is also possible. And see the command. The command is this. Let me go back here. And let's see this. Insert into employee, the table name, right? Value. Now this is the first set of command. If you remember, in your previous example, you had written only value, one set, right? But what you can do is, you can say values, you give one set, give a comma, give another set, again give a comma, give third set, give a comma, and so on. And finally, you say semicolon. And when you do so, this will also insert the data. Okay, this will also insert the data into the table, but it will insert multiple rows. So you can insert multiple row using a single insert command as well. Okay, so let's try this out. Now it says updated rows are 2. So I can expect 103 and 104. Go back here. So let me say refresh. And if you see, I got 103 and 104. These two records are inserted because of my single insert query. Okay, so a quiz time. Is it possible to insert multiple record using a single insert command? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, and this is how you can do it. Okay, now there is also one more technique called insert into dot dot set. How does it work? Let's see. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let me go back to here. Okay, and remember one thing, guys, whatever script I'm executing here, the same would work as it is on your console. Okay, so you really don't have to ask me, can you show me this on the SQL prompt? Would work. It's the same SQL query. Okay, so look into this command. Okay, so let's see this command here. Insert into employee. See the command, insert into employee. Done. Instead of value, I can say set ID to 105, name to Karan, and this would also work. Done. Now let's go back to employee. So let's say refresh. Right, so I got 105 Karan and null. So in this case, the salary is null. In this case, the salary is null, right? So I got 105 Karan and the salary is null, because I just said set this to set ID to 105, set the name to Karan. I did not assign the value to salary, and hence this worked. Okay, now there's one more approach called insert into ignore, and let's see what does it do. Okay, if you want to insert a row but ignore the insertion if the duplicate key error occurs, like a primary key or unique constant is violated, then you can use a insert ignore concept. Okay, now let us do that. To understand that insert ignore, I have to define one key as a primary key. What's the primary key? We'll go deep dive in that in a separate class. Okay, but let me tell you one thing. You can say a primary key is a unique key. A primary key means a unique key that cannot be duplicated. Okay, in a simple term, right? For example, if you have a list of all the employees, then the primary key would be employee ID, because every employee has their own employee ID, right? Or if I say, can I define a mobile number as a primary key? Of course, you can define a mobile number as a primary key, right? Because no two employee will have the same mobile number, right? So let us try to understand insert into, and if you want insert into ignore, and if you want to understand this, then you have to deal with you need to have a table with at least one primary key, right? So let's see this. So let's let's do it here. So first thing is you drop your employee table because the employee table already exists. So let me just say drop table employee, table is dropped, and let me create a table called employee, create table employee, right? ID, int, primary key, name text, salary integer, right? So we have created an employee table with 3 columns, okay? And remember, in this case, there is an extra keyword here, primary key. And this primary key means this table called employee ID would be unique, right? You will not have same value 2 times, not allowed, because it's a primary key. Okay, of course there is one more concept called unique that also gives you the same uh, you know same feature, but we'll talk about what the difference between primary key and unique key in the coming days. We will explore that later. Okay, but right now just understand that any key that is not allowed to be duplicated is a primary key, and there would be only one primary key for a table. Okay, so let's understand this. So we have created a table called employee with id as primary key. Okay, now let me do this. I would say insert into employee values. I'm inserting all the records. Done. Now I'll say insert into employee. Somebody asked me, can I change the order? So let me do this for you. Salary and ID, and I would say 7,000 and 102. Okay, so this also worked, right? See, I'm first adding salary and then ID. I was allowed to change the column position while doing an insert. Okay, and now let me try to insert one more record. I would like to execute this again. Insert into employee values 101 Suraj 5000. Remember, this is already added. Okay, so it says duplicate entry 101 for key employee dot primary. That means it is not allowed. You're not allowed to insert 101 again because it is already present, right? So you can do something like this. You can do something like this. Insert ignore into employee values 101 Suraj 5000. That means if the primary key is there, then you don't insert this. If the primary key is not there, then only you insert this. Okay, in this case it says 1 warning and 0 rows affected, but it is not giving you any error. The reason is because you are saying I'm okay to ignore insertion if the primary key is encountered, right? So if even if I say here okay 101 Suraj and 6000, this would still not insert the data. Why? Because the primary key is found already, so it checks whether the 101 already exists. If not, then it inserts. If it is present, it does not insert the record, right? So likewise, let me say okay, I'll say 103. Now if you see 103 is not present, and hence the insertion was successful. Now there is one more concept called dealing with duplicate inserts. Just now what we did is we were trying to insert the record and we said ignore if you find the duplicate, right? So that can be done, but let us do one more thing. Listen to this. Okay, can I insert the row if it does not exist, or update the row if it exists? Understand this. If the row does not exist, insert. If the row exists, update the row. Can I do something like that? Because see, if you look into this example, I was not allowed to do this in this previous example, right? So if I have 101 Suraj 5000, and if I say insert ignore into values 101, if I write Suraj, if I say 6000, it's not allowed, right? It says I found a duplicate. This 101 already exists, so I would not insert the record. But now my condition is different. My condition is if the primary key does not if my primary key is not present, then it should be insert operation. If the primary key is present, then it should be update operation. Like I should be allowed to update this data. If you have certain kind of requirement, then you can also do that. Okay, let us see that as well. Okay, so you create your table called employee with a primary key. We already had that, right? So id int primary key, name is text, salary is integer. So the same above command would work. I don't have to recreate this. And let us insert the records into this. So what I'll do is I'll go back here and let me just refresh, because we have deleted so many records and all, and let me delete all these rows. Save, use all columns, refresh, done, deleted. Okay, I deleted that because I wanted to start fresh, right? So now let me say insert into employee 101. Done. Let me say insert into employee 103. Done. So I inserted two records. Okay, 101 and 103. And if I say select star from employee, if I say select star from employee, right? So what I'll get is I'll get 101 and 103. Okay. Now let me do something like this. If I have a primary key, and see, if I'm trying to insert a record, and if the primary key is not found, then I would like to insert a record. If a primary key is found, then I would like to update the record. My requirement is that. Okay, so in that case you can write a query like this. Let me show you this. This is the command. Okay, now let me take you here and we'll understand it here. Let me delete this, paste. I'll say select star from employee. Let me run this first, and if you see, I've got 101 and 103. Okay, now my query is like this: insert into employee, ID, name and salary, value 102, Kiran 9000. See, so far we had done till here, right? We had executed all our command till here. Insert into table name, the columns that you are willing to insert and the values you would like to put, right? But you can put some conditions here. Check it out. This is extra. This is something that you are learning extra here. Now I'm saying on duplicate key update, name is equal to values of name, salary equal to values of salary, which means if a duplicate key is found, if the key, what is my key? 102. If this duplicate key is found, then you update the name column and the salary column. Okay, the meaning of this is this, right? So in this case, if I do this, then it is insert operation. Why? Because if you see, my table has 101 and 103, and the key is 102. 102 does not exist in the database table, right? Which means it is a perfect insert operation. So let me say run. Done. Okay, so updated rows 1. Now let me take you again back to select star from employee. Okay, now if you see, I have got 103, I've got 102. This 102 is inserted with Kiran as a value and 9000 as a salary, right? This is like it inserts the record if the primary key does not exist. Done. But what if the primary key exists and if you want to update the other columns, right? So that can also be done. So let us go to the next command now. Check this command. Now this command says, let me first copy it here. Okay, let me first copy it here. Now look into this. It says insert into employee, ID, name, salary, values 103, Suraj 9000 on duplicate key. If the key is found, so see here, in this case, the key is found, right? 103 already is present. So in if I execute this command, then 103 is found already in the database. On duplicate key, update name to values of name, salary to values of salary, and this name and salary would come from here, which means if I find 103, then you update the name column to Suraj and update the salary to 9,000. So for 103, this can be expected to get Suraj's value and this should get 9,000. Let's run this query. Right? So it is executed successfully, and let's say select star. Now see here, 103 name is Suraj and the salary is 9,000. Right? So this way you can actually update the data in a primary key table, and you can also have a condition if the key matches, then if you want to ignore, you can ignore. And if you want to say if the key matches, then I would like to update few columns, then also you can do that. Okay, now let's talk about update. Okay, now what is the use of update, guys? Update is used to change the data within a table, right? We do a lot of insert operations, and sometimes we feel, okay, I think I need to update some information because that information is not correct right now, right? For example, when I joined the company, my address was XYZ, but then after 2 years, I moved to some other place. And if I'm moving to some other place, I should actually update my address as well, right? So if you want to update anything on your existing data, you should basically use a update command, right? So it is used to change the data within a table. So what you can do is you can write a query like this: update the table name. You don't write a table keyword here, okay? You just say update the table name. What you want to set, okay? Followed by your condition, right? Followed by your condition. Now if you see, you can write your string like this, or you can wrap your string like this as well. It's same, okay? In programming language they are different, right? But in case of a SQL, you can use single quote or double quote to represent a string, right? So let's try this. So what the command? The command is update table name, set the values. If you have multiple value, you can use, say, you can say set id equal to this comma, this column equal to that, and so on, right? So I think we have also such example here. It is okay. So this is single column update where I'm saying update employee, set id equal to 102, where name equal to Suraj. So can you tell me, if I do this, if I run this query, then what will happen? See here, name is Suraj here, okay, and I'm saying id equal to 102. You set your id to 102. This query will fail, I know that. So let me run this. This query will fail in this case. The reason is because my employee table is what? A table with a unique value, right? And I cannot set this to 102 because it's a unique, right? So what I can do probably is let me say set salary to 6,000, okay, where name equal to Suraj. When you do that, that means you're saying I want to increment the salary of Suraj, right? So let me run this, and it says update is successful. So see here, your Suraj salary is incremented to 6,000. So let me copy this code here. Okay, means primary key we cannot update. You can update, but you cannot update with the existing value, right? Think about this. See, you can say set id to 104. That is allowed. You cannot set the primary key with same value which already is present, right? Which means you can say update employee set id equal to 104 where name is equal to Suraj. You can do this. You can do this because 104 does not exist, so you can always update. You can say, okay, this Suraj, I want to update my ID to 104. That's allowed. But you cannot say update it to 102 because it is already exist. You cannot say update this to 103 because it already exists. Clear? Okay, you can do this definitely. You cannot update to something which already exists. You cannot say update employee set ID equal to 102. This will not work because if you set this, see, if you set this to 102, then there is already one more 102. Now, if you have two 102s, then there is no concept of primary key. Right? Okay, let's move on. Now let me do this. Can you tell me what will happen if I don't write this condition? Is it important to write this where condition? What if I don't write this where condition? What if my query is just this? In this case, what will happen? What do you expect out of this? So when you don't apply any condition, then it is applicable to all the columns. Sorry, all the rows. Okay, when you don't apply any condition, then the update operation would be applicable to all the rows, which means if you say update employee set salary equal to 6,000, everybody will have a salary of 6,000. Okay, let me do this. Let us give a salary increment of 1,000 to everyone. See this code. Update employee set salary equal to salary plus 1,000, which means increment everybody's salary to 1,000 more. Right? Increment everybody's salary to 1,000 more. So when you do this, what will happen? 9,000 would become 10,000, 10,000, 7,000. So once I run this code, you can expect 10, 10, 7. Let's run this. So see here, it is giving you a warning. It says execute dangerous query. You are about to execute update statement without a where clause on employee, possible data loss, which means it's saying you are not putting any condition. Be very, very careful. It's going to modify a lot of data and it's not reversible, right? So say, okay, I know what I'm doing, and just select start from employee again. And if you see 10, 10 and 7. Earlier it was 9,000, 9,000, 6,000. We have incremented everybody's salary by 1,000. So 9,000, 9,000 became 10,000 each, 6,000 became 7,000. Okay, so this will actually set increments everybody's salary by 1,000. Okay, now you can also do a multiple column update, and you can have a multiple conditions also. Okay, choice is completely yours. So you can say update employee set salary equal to 7,000, name equal to Suraj, where ID is equal to 103. Now see here, I'm focusing on a single guy. So update employee table, set salary equal to 7,000. Set salary equal to 7,000, name equal to Suraj, where ID equal to 103. So in this case, if you see this example, I'm saying check ID equal to 103, this guy, okay, name should be changed to Suraj. If not, okay, salary should be incremented to 7,000. Salary should be 7,000, right? So if I run this query, then what will happen? My name will not change in this case, right? So let me say Suraj 1. I would say Suraj 1. Okay, it will not throw you any error, right? It is saying I want to change the name and salary of id equal to 103. So id equal to 103 means this row. So let me run this command. Done. I would like to go back to select star from employee. Now see here, for 103 I got Suraj 1 and I got this as 7,000, right? Now I can say let me change it to 9,000, and even if I say name should be Suraj 1, and if Suraj 1 already exists, of course this is no change, but it does not throw you any error. It does not say that I'm not able to rename, update the value of name because it is already same. It does not say that. Okay, so let's go back here again. Go to your start from employee, and it is same, right? So we have just changed our salary to 9,000 and name is Suraj 1. Okay, now if at all you are working with your SQL and if you feel that I want to know the query behind this, you can always know that, right? So for example, see here, let me say Suraj, I want to change it, so you can use it, do it from UI as well, and just save. Okay, just save. So this saves the data, right? Now see here, it also, when you click on it, it gives you one more option here, show confirmation before save. Okay, so we have enabled that also, checked that also. Let me make it to, let me change it to Suraj 1, and now I'll say save. Now it says, do you want to save your changes? It gives you a confirmation, and if you want to say no, give me first SQL, I want to know what is happening under the hood, right? Now see here, update employee, set name equal to this, where id equal to 103, name, so little long here, right? So it does not make any difference, although, right, it is actually trying to target to the same particular column. It's saying id is 103, name is Suraj, and salary is 9,000. For that guy you change the name to Suraj. That also can be done. Okay, so you can get to know the SQL script for every operation that you do on the dbeaver. That is the reason I ask you to always use dbeaver, because things would become much more easier every time. Okay, now let's go back. Okay, now let's move to the next, that is delete. Okay, now delete can be used to delete the rows based on conditions, right? So you can always say I want to delete where this condition, or you can say delete from the table without any condition. Now look into this. Can be used to delete all rows or particular row from table. This deletes all the row from employee table. For example, if you execute this command, then it will delete everything. Okay, so let us not do this first. We can first do this conditional delete. You can say delete from employee where id equal to 101. That means I want to delete a row from this table, right? I want to delete a row from this table where id is 101. Delete from employee where id equal to 101. And in my case, I don't have id with 101. So let's see what happens in this case. Say yes. Say yes. So it says updated row is 0, query is this, but nothing would get deleted here, right? Because you have no data with id equal to 101. So just go back to this, right? Now let's change our condition. I would like to say delete the data from the table where id equal to 102. Say run. Updated row is 1. Okay. Now again say select start from employee. Now if you see, one record was deleted, right? So likewise, if you want to delete multiple records, all the records, then you can just say delete from employee. When you say delete from employee, it will delete everything because no condition was set. So whenever you don't set any condition, remember it's always all rows, right? So all the rows would be deleted from the employee table if I run this command. Okay, now there is also one more concept called transaction. Okay, sometime you wish to do something like this. I want to delete this data, I want to delete this data, I want to delete this data. Okay, and if all the operations are successful, then only I would say commit. Or let's take it this way. I want to insert a record in a table. I want to update the record in another table. I want to delete the record in third table, three tables, and I would like to do couple of operations together. And if any operation fails, I would like to undo the operation altogether, right? So in that case, there's a concept called transaction. Okay, so you can also roll back that. So if you want to get the deleted data back, then one technique would be using a rollback technique, which means you start the transaction, start deleting, and when everything is met, you can say, okay, I'm done, I would like to commit it. And if something is wrong, then you can say, okay, roll back. So that can also be done. Okay, now let's see this example. Let me first copy this whole script and I'll paste it here. Okay, now see here. First, I would like to do this. I've got 103 and 104. Okay, now let me do what? 1030. Okay, so let me do this here. I'm starting my transaction. I said start the transaction. The transaction started. All right, now I would say, okay, let me show you the table now. Transaction is running. Okay, I would say, okay, delete from employee. One record is deleted. Okay, now when I say select star from employee, if you see, I've deleted 103 row, right? I've deleted 103 row, done. Now let us say there are some issues. I was executing some more command and there was some issue, whatever it is. And then let me say, okay, I saw there is a issue. Let me say a rollback. I did a rollback just now. Okay, now let me say select star from employee again. Now if you see, I had deleted this record, is not it? But when I said rollback, that deleted data came back again, right? And if everything is fine, then I would like to say commit. So once you commit, and when you say select star from employee, you have both the records back again, right? So what we did is we started a transaction, we deleted one thing, and then we say we have done some other operation, and later realized that there is something missing out. I checked some variables manually, let's say, and then I saw that there is something missing out, right? Some missing values, and I thought, oh, we should not have done it this way. So you can actually roll back the entire thing that you have done before the transaction started. Okay, so after the transaction started, so once you say transaction started, everything be would be stored in a cache. Okay, that would not be committed to the database. The moment you say commit, then only the real commit would happen. Once the commit happens, you cannot get back that data. But before you have committed the data, right, you can always do a rollback. And if you do a rollback, then what will happen? Whatever you have done after this transaction will come back again. Whatever update operation, delete operation would come back again. Okay, now truncate versus delete. There are two popular commands, delete and truncate. Okay, it's important to understand what is the difference between these two. Remember, delete command deletes all the data from, delete command deletes all the data from your table based on the condition, and truncate deletes all the data and there is no condition applied, right? You don't say truncate table where, you don't do that altogether, right? When you use delete command, that time you put a condition, is not it? So see here, the major difference that you will realize is delete is a DML command. Okay, deletes the desired data from the table and are stored in a buffer which we can get using a rollback. Okay, whereas truncate is a DTL command that deletes all the data from the table and we can never get back the data using the rollback command. Okay, which means whenever you fire a truncate command, the truncate command deletes everything from the database table, you cannot get that back. Whereas delete is a DML command, and whenever you fire all these delete command, they are stored in a buffer. Okay, and if you have a transaction enabled, you can get back those deleted data using the rollback command the way we have seen it here. Okay. Now let us talk about select command, guys. Okay, select command is very popular because we use it in so many places, right? We use that every day, right? Maybe you might not be using insert command anytime, probably because most of the time when you're dealing with data, there are some other tools, there are some other APIs, there are some other libraries that keeps dumping the data into the database automatically and programmatically. And it is possible that you might not even use insert command anytime in your life, probably, okay? But select is something which you use every day because you have to write complex queries and all your queries needs your select command, right? It is used to fetch the data from a database table. Almost all RDBMS supports this command, is not it? Select is a very common command. Now, if I talk about the syntax, then the syntax of a select would be this. Here, this is a complete syntax of a select command, like select distinct, what are the columns you wish to select, from which table, and then there could be a condition where what the condition you want to imply. Group by, do you want to group them with something? Group by what columns? Having what is the condition? Order by what column you want to order by, in which order, ascending, descending, limit, offset, and row count. We will talk about this as we become more mature. Okay, but right now I just wanted to show you the syntax of how a complicated select query can be, right? But we'll start with a very small select commands, and as we move on with group, order, and all, we'll start learning them and we'll again start putting them here. Okay, one such simple example could be like this here. Select distinct name and age from students where age is greater than 18, group by age, having count star is greater than 2, order by age in descending order, limit 5. So don't worry, we're not going to execute this command because we don't have the table data with us that can replicate this. I've just copied this just to show you the syntax of a real select command, right? And it can go more bigger. You can have a select command with a joins and make it more complex, which we will learn slowly as we move on. Okay, now let's move on. So select command can be used to select all columns and all rows, select all columns and particular rows, select particular column and all rows, select particular column and particular rows, right? It, which means when you use select command, it is completely up to you what columns you want to choose, what rows you want to choose. You can filter the columns, you can filter the rows, right? For example, if I say select star from employee, that means you are not filtering anything, you want to display everything, all columns, all row, that comes here, right? It's like select star from employees. This is the example of I want to select all rows and all columns. Okay, now you're saying select all columns and particular row, which means something like this. Select star from employee where ID equal to 101, is not it? Think about this. All columns but a particular row. Be very specific here. Like select star from employee, all columns but a particular row. Now select particular column and all rows. That means something like this. Select name is from employee. Now if you see particular column, few columns from employee, no condition, which means all rows, right? And the last one, select particular column and particular row, which means select name is from employee where department equal to IT, something like this. So you're a little particular now. You're saying I want to see only 2 columns from department equal to this. So you're particular, right? So I want to get only few rows and few columns. So these are the examples with the description. Okay, now you can also do something like this. You can use this select star command to create a table from a data based on existing table, and I believe many of you know this already. You can also create a new table from the data based on existing table. For example, let's take this. So let me go here. Okay, so if you see, let me run it here. Okay, so I would just delete this. Let me throw away all these commands because I don't need it right now, and let me say paste. So okay, we already have it here. So let me say select start from employee, and if you see, I got 103 and 104, right? Now what I can do is I can create another tables here using a select command. Okay, so go here and say create table employee 2, which means I want to create another table called employee 2 as select start from employee, right? So create table employee 2 as select start from employee, which means get all the records from the employee table, okay? Use that to create a new table called employee 2. Let's run this. Done. Now once you're done with this, now let's go back and say select star from employee 2. Let's try to see if we have got another employee table. Yes, the data is copied, right? So when you say select star from employee 2, you will see the data is copied. Okay, you can also do something like this. Create table employee 3 as select few columns where the condition, right? So you can have a select query with conditions, whatever, a complete, a perfect select query, and that output can be used to create another table. And we do this so many times in the real world. Why? Because think about it like this. I've written a big complicated query and I've got a join output, and I would like to store that in a separate table. So I can definitely do that, right? So I can write my complex query here, and this is going to give me some output. Using that output, I would like to store that in a separate table. Okay, that can be done. So let's first do what? Let's first go back here and let's first run this query. See how many output you are getting. You're saying select ID and name from employee 2 where name is not null. And in my case, I got two values. Okay. In my case, I got two values, and I can actually, you know, use this data and create another table out of it. So what I'll do is to satisfy the same output, let me see here. In my case, my table employee has got name, one is Suraj and another one is null, right? So I got 101 and 103. Let's see what we have here. 10, here we have 103 and 104, whatever. Let's do what? Let's make one value as null. Okay, so I would just say edit. Let me go to employee 2 table. Okay, and let me make this null. Okay, I'll go to say edit. Refresh. Select start from employee 2. Select start from employee 2. This is the table, and I just wanted to edit this data. It's not allowing me to edit, is it? Edit cell. It's not allowing me to edit this. Just a minute, let me just, refresh this. This would never happen. Employee 2 is here. Okay, I'll go here and right click and say edit set to null. Okay, so it was not allowing me to edit from there, but I went here, just refresh, and it should work. Okay, so I'll say save. Use all columns, save. Done. Now let's go back here in the our script file. Okay, so now let's see search star from employee 2. Now you see I've got one value as null, right? Now if I run this query where name is not null, then I'll get only this Suraj. This would be filtered out. right? And using this, I might be interested to create another table. So you can say create table employee as select ID. See here, create table employee as, and this query is nothing but this query, right? So whatever record you're going to get from here, it could be one row, it could be 10 rows, all those can be stored in a temporary table, but it's a table, a good table altogether. So you can use create table name as select dot 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 from another table, right? So this will help you to create a table, uh, run a query, run a select query, and store that table data in a separate table called employee 3. Okay, once you're done with this, just say select star from employee 3, and what you will see is 104 in Suraj. Okay, now one thing you need to be very careful here is, while copying a table from another table, constants are never copied like primary key and foreign keys. Let me show you that with an example. So what I'll do is, I will create, I'll delete this employee table. Okay, let's delete this script, we don't need this. I'll drop this employee table. Okay, table is dropped. Let me recreate my employee table. Done. Okay, now see here, this employee table has got a primary key. Okay, done. Next, now I would like to query, I would like to insert two records into this table. So we have to insert commands. I think it did not execute, probably because we tried to execute it together. So no worries, run it once, run it again. Okay, so this is done. Now let me say select star from employee. Okay, so we got 101 and 103, and remember, this is a primary key. See here the symbol, the key symbol, it says your ID is a primary key. Done. Now what I wanted to show you right now is, I would like to say create table employee 4 as select star from employee. So I'm trying to create another table. Right, so we all know that create table employee as select star from employee would actually select the data from this table and would create the table I call employee 4, right? So let's run this. Done. Okay, now if I go back and say select star from employee, if I say employee 4, now see here, now you should check it out, the ID is no more a primary key for employee 4, whereas for employee this is a primary key. What I'm trying to tell you here is, whenever you do a create table employee as select star from employee, right, your constants are never copied, like your primary key, foreign key and all would not be copied. It just copies the data, it does not copy the constants. That's a limitation here for sure. Okay, describe employee, if you just say describe employee, you will see that it is not, see, if you say describe employee, it will show you that the ID is primary key, but if you say describe employee 4, then you don't see that as a primary key. Now sometimes you might be interested to create a table without any data, right? So what you can do is, you can actually do it like this. Here, if I go back and if I say select star from employee, check it out. If I say select star from employee, then what I get is, I got two records. Suraj and null, right? And if I say, select start from employee where name is hello, will I get any data out of it, guys? Will I get any data out of this? If I run this query, name equal to hello, no, right? Which means this condition is false. And I would like to say create table employee 5 as. When you can do this to create a data, like a table without a data. Table employee 5 would be created. It will have the same column as you have for employee, but with no data, right? So once you are done with this, now if you say select start from employee 5, you would see that the table is created without any data. So sometimes you might be interested to create a data without a data, table without a data, right? The schema should not be disturbed. In that case, you can actually do this quick around, okay? But if you say, hey, I want to copy the constants and everything, I would say the best way would be, the best thing that you should basically do is refresh this. Suppose this is a table, right? You can do what, you can say, generate SQL and just say DDL and copy this, change the table name and re-execute this command. Okay, so that is what I would basically suggest you to do if you want to make sure that the constants are also implied, because you really don't want to take a chance, right, of just doing something extra. So I would say go to the table, look into the schema, right, generate the schema out of it, okay, and then just change the table name and execute that again.